Hi, this is Klaus Meiner of the Scorpions. Hey, this one's for people that normally don't listen to talk shows at all. But this is a show you don't want to miss. The Allan Handelman Show. It rocks.
Believe it or not, the Beach Boys, Student Demonstration Time, one of the more rockier songs. Later on, you're going to hear some songs by the Beach Boys in stereo for the first time. Let's get Mike on. Mike Love co-wrote Surfin', I Get Around, actually wrote Good Vibrations and Fun, 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 Help Me Rhonda, and lots of other Beach Boys songs. The original member, original lead singer. Mike, it is great to have you on the show.
How you doing? Good to be on.
Good to talk to you. The
it's
voice.
Nice of you to talk to the mature groups.
Anyone that rocks. Anyone that rocks. And that song we just played, Student Demonstration Time, that rocks. What was the story behind that one?
Well, what it was is a version of Riot in Cell Block Number 9, which is a 50s R&B song. A fantastic song, which I loved, because back in the middle to late 50s, all that great rock and roll was coming out, and quite a few R&B and doo-wop groups. And so we kind of we adapted those songs and loved them quite a bit. So what we did is, what with the Vietnam War demonstrations and stuff that were going on, Kent State and what have you, Isla Vista out in California, Berkeley up in Berkeley, and so we took that song, Riot in Cell Block Number 9, and made it Student Demonstration Time. And the concept behind the song was, it had some sirens going off and stuff like that, but basically it was to say, next time there's a riot, stay out of sight, because there's better ways to get your point across than throwing yourself in front of a tank or getting tear gassed. So although it was sounded rowdy, basically it was talking about being a little less violent, kind of along the lines of what a Gandhi or Martin Luther King would have to say.
That's right. It had a strong feeling, and it really had that impact of that hard edge, but it wasn't promoting violence in any way.
Well, because we empathize, what was going on at the time, as we do now, but with what's going on now. In fact, I just finished a song called Make Love, Not War, and it refers to Brother Marvin, meaning Marvin Gaye, singing What's Going On, and war is not the answer, I distinctly heard him say, but the same old is happening today. So, yeah, it's funny how the 60s is back again, bigger and stronger than ever in terms of the dynamics of what's going on in society.
Isn't that the truth? I haven't seen so much polarization since the early 70s like I've seen now. I've never seen so much... I mean, a lot of times you don't like the president, but I've never seen so much hatred.
Well, what it is, it's funny because, around the world and in the United States, there were huge demonstrations against invading Iraq before it happened. Huge, bigger than, and it's kind of unique because that happened before the event, whereas back in the Vietnam days, there were several years of the war before that kind of anti-war sentiment became so prevalent or dominant that it actually influenced politics. Although we did a show on May Day one time, we were one of the first acts to appear there, and it's good we got out of town because then they jailed a few thousand people.
Yeah, well,
so that was more of a politically oriented deal but July 4th, it was, it's a national holiday.
That's right.
We became a little notorious for playing those kinds of things. That was in celebration of Independence Day.
When I grow up to be a man.
You just played a song called When I Grow Up to Be a Man.
Yeah.
And, the subject matter and the feeling and the mood of Beach Boys songs is what do they call it? That song, Forever Young,
That's right,
so,
Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I remember my youngest daughter, she's 8 now, but she couldn't speak yet, but she would go up to the CD player, she'd go, ba, 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 ba. She wanted to hear Barbara Ann.
Yeah.
So the Beach Boys, I mean, for those of us who grew up with the Beach Boys in the 60s, it's nostalgia, but it's amazing how the music connects with, the younger audiences of basically several different generations.
Yeah. Oh, I again, referring to the term goosebump music, when you would hear "In My Room,"
Oh yeah,
and all those great songs. Yeah, that just reminds you of all the great things.
right. Well, "The Warmth of the Sun" is a song Brian and I wrote the night before President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. We woke up to that news, and so, needless to say, when we recorded it a day or two later, that session was charged with emotion, and whenever we sing it, we sang it with Willie Nelson in a stadium at Farm Aid several years back, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, in Columbia, South Carolina, and we rehearsed it with him after midnight.
I was there. That was a great show, man.
It was unbelievable. And it was neat when Neil Young crawled out on stage.
That's right. Everybody is out on stage with the Beach Boys. It was amazing. Yeah.
It was fun. Yeah.
Well, there's something I want to talk about too, just to get an idea how things have changed. Do you still do TM of any kind?
Oh yeah, I meditate. I learned meditation from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in December of 1967, and it's been a lifesaver for me. Rather than alcohol and drugs and whatever other form of, like dropping out or whatever, it's enabled me to get rid of enough stress internally to go on with the show. And I think it's led to the group's longevity, and certainly been a huge factor in my own personal health and happiness. And yeah, I in fact became a teacher of TM in like 1972, and being in India in spring of '68, George Harrison and I both had birthdays. We're both Pisces. He's late February. I'm March 15th, and I just wrote a song for a new CD project that I've been working on, called Pisces Brothers, and it's a sentimental reflection upon that time about George Harrison mainly. I'm the original lead singer and sang lead on all those songs you mentioned, except for I'd say Kokomo and Good Vibrations. We shared the lead with my cousin Carl Wilson. He had that beautiful voice which you just heard on God Only Knows. But yeah, I've always been the lead singer, and I've been able to co-write some great songs with Brian. So it's been a real fascinating journey. And my cousin Brian, however, was very uneasy touring and being out. Plus, he wanted to devote more time to studio work. So in 1965, Glenn Campbell came in and took his place for a few months, and then Bruce Johnston took Glenn's case. So Bruce has been with us, except for a couple-year hiatus. He's been with us since 1965. So, nobody could replace Brian, really, but he's done a great job, Bruce has, with... he's a great singer, great arranger. I write the songs, which is Barry Manilow's music.
Sure.
He's the only one of us that has a Grammy, although I think Good Vibrations would deserve a Grammy. They gave us what we call a Sympathy Grammy, the Lifetime Achievement Award, a couple of years back.
Sympathy. Let's take some calls here real quick. Ron, line number 3, you're on with Mike Love. Hey, Ron.
Hi, good evening. Hi, Mike.
Hi.
It's a real honor to speak to you.
Why, thank you.
And I'm just curious, when's the last chance that you actually got to go to a show and see somebody, and who would that be? Or do you ever get a chance to with your busy schedule?
Well, we're pretty busy, but I like to peel off and go see things. I went and saw McCartney, and, missed the Rolling Stones. We were a little busy. But, yeah, we like to get out and about once in a while. I live in Lake Tahoe, and that's near Reno and also the south shore of Lake Tahoe. So oftentimes people come through that I want to see, like Earth, Wind, and Fire in Chicago. We're going out this summer together. I think that'll be a very interesting show musically. I like a lot of. I'm not so contemporary in terms of my musical taste, but because I'm attracted because of our tradition to a melody and some harmonies. But I like kind of fun, uplifting, upbeat kind of people and songs. Huey Lewis or something.
But I appreciate it again, and thanks for your time.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate it, Ron.
Look forward to seeing you.
Here's that email from Australia. It's a listener. I've been a Beach Boy fan for 40 years. Could you ask Mike how he feels about Brian's resurgence. Personally, I'm so happy for him that he has picked up his life and got on with it. And this is Betty from Bribie Island, Australia. Is it Burby? Yeah, Burby Island, I guess, Australia.
Yeah, well, to answer that question, I too feel like it's great that Brian's able to appreciate some of his celebrity. For many years, he was a recluse. He was, we didn't know what was wrong with him when he left the group in 1965, but he was suffering from like a nervous breakdown, apparently. It turns out he was, diagnosed as paranoid schizophrenic, which means you need medication. He was hearing voices and all kinds of things. So he just wasn't secure enough and stable enough to appreciate touring. And the benefit of him leaving the group, it was emotionally a drag, but the benefit was the Pet Sounds album came about a year after that. And California Girls was the first song that Bruce sang with us. Bruce Johnson sang a very distinctive part of California Girls. I sang the lead and co-wrote it with Brian. So, but right now, I mean, after years of dysfunctionality, Brian's remarried, and he has a group of people around him who make it possible for him to go out and perform and see the public and them to see him. And so I too feel like it's great that he's able to enjoy some of the fruits of his labors.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Now, let me ask you this. With all the songs, gosh, you have so many great songs, but you have been performing since 1961. And there must be a point on stage where certain songs you enjoy. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe all the songs you enjoy equally, but are there one or two songs you still enjoy performing more than the others, maybe?
Well, if we didn't enjoy performing, we probably wouldn't. And the beautiful thing about so many Beach Boys songs is the harmonies and the arrangements are so fantastic. They're so unique and everything. And they're all different kinds of tempos and moods and subject matters. But, you played When I Grow Up to Be a Man at the beginning of this interview, and that is something that it's not the biggest hit we ever had, but the vocal arrangement is unbelievable. And in person, people are taken aback, I think, because it's artistic and challenging and really, really amazing. So it gets a really interesting response, as does Wouldn't It Be Nice in person. But, it's hard to beat California Girls and I Get Around and Fun, Fun, Fun and Surfing USA. It's hard to beat those songs. So there's so many great ones, but it has to do with the moods and the subject matter and when we do In My Room, or when we do Surfer Girl, or when we do Don't Worry Baby, or when we do, The Warmth of the Sun, those are more introspective. They're more emotional responses. So it's not a jump up and down kind of thing. But so it's wonderful because we have such a diversity of types of songs and everything. But I don't know. When I Grew Up just came to mind because A, you just played it, and B, we haven't done it in a long time, but just in the last year we've started to do it, and it gets a great response.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite songs. It's one of my favorite Beach Boys songs. The harmony, and an amazing thing people are surprised to hear, it was mono. A lot of those songs weren't stereo, but it sounded like stereo because of the harmonies and everything. Right. It was just an incredible mix.
Well, the thing is, my cousin Brian could only hear out of one ear, so therefore everything he heard was mono, that's for sure. And that was an unfortunate result of his father, I think, being a bit abusive. Mm-hmm. And he was abusive in many ways, but physical was one of them. But at any rate, he heard that way. And so all the Beach Boys singles and albums up until recently were in mono. But since then, they've gotten into the archives and the tapes and done things that are a little more like everybody else was doing them. But I think it might have had some kind of bearing on the success of those single records that we had in the 60s.
Yeah, you bring back a lot of memories, and it's good memories. It's fun stuff. And Mike, this has been a fast half hour, I'm telling you. Well, if you haven't, maybe you have some old vinyl laying around of the Beach Boys and you haven't bought a CD in a long time, this is the opportunity. It's called Sounds of Summer, the very best of the Beach Boys, digitally remastered.
30 songs, I might say, on one CD.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And Mike, we want to have you back on again. We'll take more calls. It's just thank you for being on the show, man.
Oh, we'd love to come back and have some more fun.
You got it. Mike Love of the Beach Boys. Check it out. Yeah, and, this is one of the things about the Beach Boys. You go to the concert, you're seeing all these generations, you see little kids. I mean, that's the kind of music that you could be 7 years old and riding a tricycle and singing along.
Stay tuned for more of the Allan Handelman Show.
This guy is going to change lives.
Compelling Talk Radio.